Most people moving to Palmdale don't even realize there are two completely different sides of the city, and choosing the wrong one can completely change your experience living here. Because on paper, it might all look the same city, similar prices, same general area. But once you actually start driving through different neighborhoods, you start to feel the difference almost immediately. I've had clients come out here already set on one side of Palmdale. They thought they knew exactly where they wanted to be. And then the moment we drive into a different area, everything changes for them because they start noticing things they didn't expect. The way it feels, the type of homes, the surroundings, and suddenly they're rethinking everything because this decision isn't just about the house. It's about your day-to-day lifestyle. It's about how close you are to things, how your neighborhood feels, what your routine actually looks like once you're living there. And this is something I see happen time to time, where buyers focus so much on the home itself that they don't fully think through what it's like to live in that specific part of Palmdale. And that's where people can end up in the wrong area for them. Not because it's a bad area, but because it didn't match their lifestyle. So in this video, I'm going to break down West Palmdale versus East Palmdale so you can actually understand the real difference and figure out which one makes more sense for you. I'm Jennifer Espinoza with Casa Espinoza Homes, and I help people relocate to Palmdale, Lancaster, and even the Antelope Valley. And this is one of the biggest decisions my clients have to make when they're ready to make that move here. And real quick, if you are serious about moving to the Antelope Valley, make sure you subscribe, comment, and like my channel because I break all this down so you can make the right decision, not just a quick one. So let's start with the West Palmdale because this is where most buyers naturally end up focusing first. And honestly, there's a reason for it. When people picture moving to Palmdale, this is usually what they have in their mind. You're going to find newer homes, more modern developments, cleaner layouts, and overall, it just feels more updated. And for a lot of buyers, that first impression matters because when you're driving through West Palmdale, it feels a little more put together. You're closer to major shopping centers. You have all these restaurants there. There's so many grocery stores. Everything feels a little more convenient. And that's convenience is a big reason why people choose a side. I've had clients who came out here specifically saying, I want something newer. I want to be close to everything. I want to be by the freeway. And as soon as we start touring West Palmdale, they feel like this is exactly what they're looking for because it matches their visions. You're also going to see a lot of newer construction communities here, which for some buyers, it's a huge plus. They're move-in ready homes. They have updated design. There's less immediate maintenance, and that can make the transition feel a lot easier. But this is where we need to slow down for a second because while West Palmdale checks a lot of boxes in our list, it also comes with trade-off. And this is where I see buyers start to overlook things because that convenience and that newer feel usually comes at a higher price point. Homes here tend to be more expensive, and depending on the community, you may also have higher taxes or additional costs tied to newer development. So while it feels like an easy choice, it's not always the best fit for everyone. And that's why I always tell my clients this. Don't just look at what looks good. Look at what actually fits your lifestyle because if your priority is convenience, newer homes, and being close to everything, like the freeway, then West Palmdale can be a great fit. But if those things aren't your top priority right now, when this might not be where you get the most value, and that's where the other side of Palmdale starts to become really important to look at. Now let's talk about the East Palmdale because this is where things start to shift. And this is where a lot of buyers come in with assumptions. Sometimes they've heard things. Sometimes they've seen things online and they already know what to expect. But once we actually start driving through East Palmdale together, that's usually when their perspective changes, because what you're going to find here is more affordability, and not just a little bit. In many cases, you're getting significantly more for your money, larger lots, more spaces, and sometimes homes that feel more spaced out. And for a lot of buyers, this is where value can really start to stand out for them. I have clients who initially said this to me: I only want West Palmdale. And then we become to tour homes on the east side of town. And suddenly they're saying, wait, can we get all this for that price? And that's where the conversation changes, because now it's not about just the location. It's about what you're actually getting for your budget. Now, that doesn't mean it's right fit for everyone, because just like West Palmdale, they are trade-offs here too. The homes tend to be older. The overall feel can be different, and depending on the specific area, it may not feel as new or polished as what you see on the west side. And for some buyers, that matters. But for others, they don't care about that as much. They care about the space, the affordability, and getting the most value possible for their money. And that's where East Palmdale really starts to make sense for them. Because if your priority is getting more home, more land, and keeping your monthly cost lower, this side of Palmdale can actually be a really strong option. And this is why I always tell people, don't write off an area before you can actually see it for yourself. Because once you do, you might realize it fits you better than you actually expected. It's about what you're actually getting for your budget. Now, that doesn't mean it's a right fit for everyone, because just like West Palmdale, there are trade-offs here too. The homes tend to be older. The overall feel can feel different. And depending on the specific area, it may not feel as new or polished as what you see on the west side. And for some buyers, that matters a lot. But for others, they don't care about that as much. They only care about the space, the affordability, and getting the most value possible for their money. And that's where East Palmdale really starts to make sense. Because if your priority is getting more home, more land, and keeping your monthly costs lower, this side of Palmdale can actually be a really strong option. And this is why I always tell people, don't write off an area before you actually see it yourself. Because once you do, you might realize it fits you better than you expected. And this is really where the decision starts to happen. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about the West versus East. It's all about how you actually want to live your day-to-day life. Because two people can look at the same home in two different parts of Palmdale and have a completely different experience. So let's break that down. If you're living in West Palmdale, your day-to-day life is going to feel more convenient. You're closer to shopping. You're closer to all the restaurants. You're closer to the grocery stores. You're closer to the 14 freeway. Everything feels a little more accessible. You can run errands faster, get to places easier. And for a lot of people, that's convenience. It makes a big difference. It feels more connected, more active. And for some buyers, that's exactly what they want. Now compare that to living on the east side. Your lifestyle is going to feel different. It's going to be a little bit more laid back. It's a little quieter. It's a little bit quieter. Sometimes more space, more distance between homes. And for some people, that's actually a huge plus, because not everyone wants to be right next to everything. Some people prefer more room, more privacy, and a slower pace. And that's where East Palmdale starts to stand out. So this really comes down to what kind of environment you want to live. Do you want convenience and being close to everything? Or do you want space and a quieter feel? Because neither one is better. They're just different. And this is exactly where I see buyers make tons of mistakes. They focus so much on the house itself that they don't think about how their day-to-day life is actually going to feel. And that's a part that matters long-term, because once you move in, this isn't just about your house anymore. It's about your routine, your drive, your environment, your lifestyle. And that's why I always tell my clients, you don't just choose a home, you choose how you're going to live. So at this point, it really comes down to this. Who is each side of Palmdale actually for? Because once you understand that simple question, the decision becomes a lot clearer. Let's start with West Palmdale. If you are someone who values convenience, being close to shopping, restaurants, and have everything nearby, West Palmdale is probably going to feel like a better fit if you prefer newer homes, more modern layouts, and a more updated look overall. Again, this side is going to make more sense. And for a lot of buyers, especially families or people relocating for more urban areas, this is usually where they feel the most comfortable because it matches what they're used to. Now, on the other side, let's talk about the East Palmdale. If your priority is getting more space, more value for your money, and stretching your budget further, this is where you're going to start seeing a lot more opportunity if you don't mind those older homes or areas that feel a little less new. But in exchange, you are getting more square footage, more land, and potentially a lower monthly cost than West Palmdale. East Palmdale might actually be the smarter move for you. And I have clients who came in thinking they were 100% set on the west side. But once they really looked at what they were going to get on the east side and how it fit their overall budget, they completely changed directions. Because at the end of the day, it's not about what looks better on paper. It's about what works best for you. And that's where this decision becomes a lot more personal because there's no better side of Palmdale. Just the side that fits your lifestyle. And honestly, this is the kind of stuff most people don't really understand until they actually going through the process. So if you're thinking about moving to Palmdale or anywhere in the Antelope Valley, make sure you subscribe because I break all this down so you can make the right decision before you commit. So when you really step back and look at everything we just talked about, West Palmdale, East Palmdale, the home styles, the pricing, the lifestyle, the difference, what it really comes down to is what fits you the best. Because there's no one size fits all answer here. I worked with buyers who were convinced they wanted one side. And by the end of the process, they choose something completely different, not because one was better than the other, but because one made more sense for how they actually live. And that's the part that matters the most. Because once you move, this isn't just about your house anymore. It's about your routine, your daily life, your environment. And that's why I always tell my clients this. You're not just choosing a home. You're choosing how you're going to live day by day. And if you're in that process right now, you're trying to figure it all out, which side of Palmdale actually makes sense for you, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to walk you through everything, show you different areas, and help you figure it all out. What is the best fit for you and for your lifestyle? And again, if you are looking to moving out here, I do videos every week breaking down what it actually like living in Palmdale in the entire Antelope Valley, so you can really understand what to expect before you make that big move. And I'm actually curious, if you are thinking about moving out here, which side are you leaning toward right now? West Palmdale or East Palmdale? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to see what you're thinking. And if you got a family or friends considering making the move, this is probably something that they should see before they decide.